Welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And my guest you have been listening to so far, Andrew Ejapamesa, former MP Secondee and former Minister for Tourism. Elikem Kotoko is a Deputy CEO of the Forestry Commission, who are going to dechemicalize our waters so that, you know, we have a way of helping with the Galamsey situation. Senyor Hosi is convener, One Ghana Movement, and trustee of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, a CDD fellow. So now let's talk about NAIMOS and inroads they are making and see if that is the way forward. Professor Kwesi, security consultant, joins us. Eraso Sasaridonko, multiple award winner with the multimedia team, also joins us. Right. So maybe we start with you, Elikem. NAIMOS has been showing teeth and got some praise this week, but people think we are familiar with that. That's not new. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree with you, Samson. We will not be doing the same things and be expecting different results. In the past, there wasn't that show of commitment, and in this fight against Galamsey. But maybe to start with the very profound statement by the then president, who said he was prepared to put his presidency on the line. It's one thing being prepared to put the presidency on the line, and it's another thing putting your presidency on the line. When you talk about the gold for the gold mafia expose, the Anasis expose, Charles Bissiou and all of that, let's leave that side. Now, President Mahama took over, and with the goodwill of the people and her political will to confront this, the first statement he made was to make sure that there was no new licenses to be issued, especially into our forest reserves. This is because an LI was passed, 2462, that at a point allowed more than 30 companies to go into our forest reserves in the name of mining. And they were not only mining, but they were doing most of these things inappropriately. Then, so having taken that first step out of about 9, which I want to outline, that alone was not enough. But at least it allowed you the leverage to be able to watch the space and tell no new licenses. And as a result of that, as I speak with you, the Deputy Lands Minister, who chairs a committee to review over 2,748 licenses. 55 has been revoked instantly, 316 found to be clean, and 907 are the risk of being revoked as well too. Now, to further...
And about a dozen new ones issued, right?
No new ones. That's, I'm telling you, no new licenses has been issued ever since President Mahama took office. Then further, in the past, excavators used to just pass through our ports and no registration, no records. Now, we are making sure that these are registered with the DVLA. They are going to be tracked and properly geofenced in order to ensure for efficient monitoring. Then the Sector Minister, Honorable Emmanuel Kofi-Boa, who doubles also as Caretaker Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, and MP for Lembele, further kicked in motion and a letter to the Attorney General that, look, we need to repeal the LI 2462. Which the Attorney General made a vow just last Friday in the meeting with the CSOs that on 14th October, which was when the Parliament was supposed to sit, and now it's been postponed though, but at the next sitting of Parliament, that was a major document to be presented for consideration. Then also there were 9 forest reserves that were breached. I mean, that were a no-go declared as red zones at the time we took over. But as we speak now, that have all been repossessed by government through its effort with NAIMOS and the security agencies. Further, the minister has again declared water bodies and our forest reserves as security zones. These are semblance of security measures being taken to ensure we nip this in the bud. One may suggest that you should have just issued all of this at a go. But, well, that may not always be right. Some may also argue for it. You cannot take out the fact that having done all of these, it then now boils down to enforcement also to serve as a major deterrent to those who are engaged in this enterprise, which is environmentally impacting negatively and affecting all of us sitting here. Because even if water is put before us, no matter how clean it is, based on turbidity, it does not necessarily mean that it is very healthy for our consumption. To borrow the words of my brother to my left, when we are now asked to take balanced diets or balanced meals, we are not careful, we are now taking balanced poison.
Yeah.
You get it. And so we all know of this, and nobody can rule this out. And I have always particularly made this example I want to state here again. You may be in my own hometown in Namfoigan or Abo in the Volta region somewhere and feel you are not so concerned. But look at this example. You are somewhere, there's no galamsey, etc. You think you have clean water. You have a daughter who is maybe 10 years, 12 years, definitely expected to marry in the next 20 years. Now, maybe the gentleman he is supposed to marry in the next 20 years comes from the Western North. And that child's just been born.
Your child will go to secondary school.
And it's been born with defects, and maybe a year or so later loses their life. When your child is no longer getting married after 30 years, 40, 50, you will be blaming nature and blaming all the witches in your house, saying that your daughter is not. Maybe you're not being concerned about that which was happening over there is also a result. So we must all be concerned. As if that is not enough, the introduction of the NAIMOS, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, headed by one Colonel Dominic Boer, is aimed at coordinating the efforts to make sure we have just a single task force to fight this battle. Reason being that in the past we have had Operation Vanguard, Operation Halt, this and that, the police, etc. Some became a compromised force just to extort or perpetrate other actions other than what they were expected to do. But when you have a singular task force doing this, it means that everybody, do not constitute unto yourself law that I am national security, I am this, I am that. When you have any snippet of information, the best thing to do is to report that or hint the NAIMOS. So they can do that. I'm sure we are all aware. I think even yesterday, for instance, there were similar operations in the Ankobra at Pristiahuni Valley, in even Ahiafotu, and so many places. They are doing this. Now, what are we doing differently from the current regime? This time round, from the previous regime, this time round, this NAIMOS comprising the armed forces, the immigration, the police, the NACOC, NSB, etc. This time round, these men and women will be deployed to these places permanently and on rotational basis until further notice. It is to make sure that you do not go there, then cure the problem there, retreat, and then the guys also get back again. So yes, NAIMOS is now coming to do something new, and I am not surprised that they're receiving commendation and applause for what they are doing. I will even be the first person to say here now that that alone is not enough, because we are expecting more. We are expecting more because the Ghanaian want to start seeing the water body clean. But I must say emphatically that seeing the water body clean alone is not enough, because there are heavy metals containing that water. Aquatic life has been completely killed. The water quality has been compromised. That feeds into the soil, which has also affected the fertility. Crop yield is then affected. Then that is where the burden on our health becomes a major concern. Crop quality. And it also means that it is putting a burden on government expenditure on health. So we may now be looking at having to set up mine hospitals or mine-related hospitals to address these matters. Then also there's a concern about alternative livelihoods for these people. One will say that each time you try to talk of livelihoods for these alternative livelihoods for these people, you are not saying anything, because whatever you are doing, this gentleman is making 1,000 cedis a day or 2,000 a day. You want to give him an alternative livelihood that will give him 1,000 cedis over a month. It doesn't make sense. But we must agree that there's a lot of greed that has made people venture into this enterprise. However, the key component of education, which is strong and consistent advocacy, can help cure some of this. I saw a video which I always make reference to again. A gentleman who was bare-chested walking to a site where his champagne was burnt. And he said, hey, into John Mahama, I buy a tuba on the obey, to somebody like that, out of illiteracy, he just thinks that, well, I still have money to buy another one, whether I'm impacting the environment negatively or not, he doesn't care. Education is very key. Now, this education, we must approach this whole thing short, medium, and long-term approaches. Why are we going to school? The purpose of education is to reform and impact society positively. And so when we are going to school now, we used to have the Red Cross, the wildlife clubs, and all that. We can now be enforcing strongly, especially in most impacted regions, forest clubs, wildlife clubs, environmental clubs, etc., in our schools. As we're doing so, we are engaging our traditional authorities, i.e. the chiefs, traditional authorities, opinion leaders, youth groups, etc., on finding resolutions to some of this. I am aware, for instance, President Mahama's program, the Ejumewura program. One may say that is infinitesimal compared to what they will be getting from that enterprise, which is why this is rather a deterrent for them. But when NAIMOS is stationed there, preventing them from doing all of this, and you are trying to give them an alternative, some may now be learnable to what is being done. That, okay, let's
right. So what we are looking at presently,
yes,
you have gone beyond that to give us the blueprint, sort of,
yes,
as to the approach. So, as we were told, NAIMOS, entered the Chumamponia forest, then seized excavators in a massive crackdown. They promised that they would deal ruthlessly with the recalcitrant illegal miners, because that was the direction of the lands minister to them. They said they will patrol the Galamsey sites 24/7 with troops, drones, and hotlines. Now, we're getting information, for example, and these are fact checkers. They say on Monday, we were treated to news of arrest and takeover of Gangway by NAIMOS. In less than a week, Gangway is back into the hands of Galamseyers. And guess who their spokesperson is? They say an NDC ward chairman, we are told, is giving the history and justifying why Gangway should be left in the hands of youth, the NDC youth. Have you become familiar with this?
I am not. May I ask who especially, who in particular has made this reference? Reason being that I am fully aware of Gangway.
Fact checkers, meaning the organizations.
Well, because I am aware that a major crackdown was carried out over there. And there is absolutely no way, I am on your set,
that they can go back.
That they can go back instantly.
Abroad incline.
Oh, this is not abroad.
Abroad incline, what's happening?
Yes, I agree.
Did they go back?
No. You see, that is why I'm telling you that what went on there, every structure has been totally condemned, reduced to ashes.
We just do another one.
Well, and you see, that is why I'm telling you that deployments will be done to make sure that our men, NAIMOS, will be permanently stationed at all these enclaves and make sure on rotational basis. The reason for rotational basis is to avoid...
Hold on for a minute. Erastus Osaridonko, Professor Kwesieni, thank you very much for your patience. Erastus, you have been on the ground. This is something we should applaud. But from where you sit, is this sustainable?
Well, thank you very much. Gangway, I'm reliably informed, was raided 3 days ago. So it will be inaccurate that for a week now, people have come back.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 days ago, the place was raided and settlements and other things were burnt. But I would say that we had the Akufo-Addo.
There's supposed to be a video by Smart TV, which is shared with me to me by Nathan Gaduga. You know Nathan. Yes. You may want to see it and be sure that Gangway remains demolished and a red zone.
Unless the Gangway I know the NAIMOS raided 3 days ago, it's not the Gangway that Nathan is talking about. So right from here, we'll check the grounds again to see what is happening.
All right.
But, what I wanted to say is that, under the Akufo-Addo administration, there were a series of actions like this one. We started with Galamstop, which I was part of. We moved into Operation Vanguard. We went to Operation Halt 1 and 2. And all these things, the common thing that made them fall or did not meet their expectation was political manipulation. In fact, they manipulated these four exercises to the extent that where to go, who to strike, and who to arrest was determined from the corridors of power. And that is why they failed. Yes, NAIMOS has started something I've been following keenly, and I've been also checking the ground as well. And so far, so good. They've done some major strikes in the Cape 3 points. Cape 3 points have been a hotspot for illegal mining for some time now. They've done some works along the Ankudra, which is very dear to my heart because of the people who are mining directly on the river bed. I will say that it is good, but it must accompany a certain routine to be able to be sustained.
So, Erastus, this place where we saw the raid track being completely removed for the purposes of gold, have you been able, can you tell us which place is this and whether the state's security is protecting that infrastructure?
I understand it's within the Insuta area, within the central region, thereabout. And since then, there have been some security raids in that area to stop that activity at the area.
Okay. Hold on for me briefly. Professor Kwesianin.
Yes.
Yes, this looks like something that ought to be applauded. But the question again is, how is this sustainable? The arrest they made and the caliber of people they picked up. Once again, your Chinese are in there, or you don't feel anything. You don't feel anything is being done.
Well, I think something is being done, but as Erastus has said, we need a better grasp and understanding of the networks, the financial kingpins behind this, where the money goes, how the money comes in, who purchases what. We are only playing with the small boys and small girls. So until we really come to grips with the powers that be behind this process, then I think, yes, we will have superficial successes, but really making a dent into this is still a joke. So we are only looking at short-term successes and gains, but overlooking the long-term, I would argue, interventions that will cure this. If I put on my lens of my understanding of how those in the mafia work or those in narco states work, and here I think the work that Professor Appiagyei has done is very instructive here, in which he describes Ghana as a gallant state. And this is what he says, that for a gallant state, it is a state that has been captured and linked to higher forms of grand corruption. In a gallant state, the practice of what we are talking about is normalized, and the people are silenced or limited to mere criticism of the negative practices, and while the criticism are also met with counter-narratives, closed in legalese and big English. Okay, so, and I think the president himself has indicated that we are chasing the small boys and girls. Now, if NAIMOS, as the previous speaker from the Forestry Commission, Elikent, said, is bringing together different groups, then it raises a much more serious problem with the performance of our security agencies. How can NAIMOS do what it is doing and the statutory security agencies under Act 1030 of 2020, the Signals Act, Act 1040, also of 2020, and the National Security Strategy document that classifies 4 types of threats in which illicit mining is located in there, cannot get this job done? Then it's a matter of the nature of the political will that must back the institutional processes and give them teeth to the level.
You just confirmed what Erastus our boots on the ground on this matter is talking about, that it's actually a question of the political will. Asana Nankoma also writes and goes back to this issue and says, what we are dealing with is not lack of resources or brains to solve the problem, but it is lack of political will.
So if the will is, and you would hear statutory security forces from the Ghana Armed Forces, National Intelligence Bureau, and all these organizations that give us the space, and within X number of weeks, this will be a finished problem.
So give them the space, and NAIMOS won't work, because there's a 400 strong army, that is in NAIMOS dealing with this. Is that not so?
When the 15,000 or so and the HALT and the Vanguard would not do it, I mean, we have a statutory armed force. Other security agencies, from forestry to customs, immigration, specifically trained to protect the state from threats, either from without or from within. If they cannot do it, then I think the successes of these 400 individuals led by this colonel, interesting as they are, will not be able to deal with the problem. And it shows our lack of commitment to long-term response and bringing this challenge under control.
But this is the group that has been able to take over the red zones, the places that formerly you could not have access. The 9 of them, the Tano Anya, Ofin, Shelter Belt, the Asinayo, and all of those places. This is the same body that's been able to, destabilize these people from there and taking over.
It raises fundamental questions. So, how come the intelligence services couldn't do this previously? How come the Ghana Armed Forces couldn't do this? How come the Forestry Commission with its forestry guards could not do this? No, I think.
No, I'm talking about you expressing doubt over their capacity when a larger capacity of troops couldn't do it. That's why I'm saying this is what they have done.
Yes, but that then raises something even more disturbing questions. What is it that 400 people have been able to do that all these other institutions could not do and maintain? Okay, so I'm only raising the question that how do we sustain it? How can it be sustained in the long term? Because we know that HALT, Vanguard, were all corrupted at a point in time. So what is my brother Elikem doing to protect these 400 people from the interventions that we know big money can do?
Right. So hold on for me. Erastus, you have said earlier that the major problem was actually the political will, where all these 3 or 4 different phases, you actually had people at the top determine who should be arrested and so on and so forth. Tell me, what difference have you seen in the NAIMOS, and does it give you any hope? It may be a small 400 force, but as we understand, 9 previously no-go forest reserves have been repossessed. They are doing a good job, are they not? 450 excavators have been seized at various police stations, district offices, military bases. Over 1,400 arrests until this latest one was made. So now maybe we'll be going to up to maybe 1,600 or so. Over 500 shamfans have been destroyed. Over 1,000 water pumping machines, large numbers of heavy weapons have all been taken.
I agree with Professor Enin to a large extent. You see, we have done all that, as you put them. We have made a series of arrests. The IGP's men seized over 100 excavators that are currently parked in Samraboy, where I'm monitoring closely. They've made some gains, but you realize that we keep going back to the same thing again and again, because I see it as a firefighting approach. I do not doubt the capacity of NAIMOS. No. Yes, they are capable and they can do it. But I see them as a rapid response rather than a solution to the problem. And this is my reason. If we do not involve and make sure that DCEs who are heads of DISECs and NUSECs and others are held accountable strictly to what is happening within their jurisdiction, then they will continue to fight, but the moment they leave, the people will come back, just as we are seeing. The president needs to crack the whip on district chief executives. Remember, recently, we went to the ground and we filmed illegal mining polluting the BC River and the Subri River, which are tributaries of the Tano River. And we filmed the Galamsey that is polluting it. When we put it out quickly, the DCE for Tano North went with chiefs to a totally different area within the same jurisdiction and filmed a clean BC to try and deceive the public. I call that disinformation. This was carefully and calculated, done by the DCE to sway attention from the action that was going on downstream. This is criminal. And if the president does not crack down on such DCEs and such appointees at the local level, then we'll be going back and forth, just like we witnessed in the Akufo-Addo administration. NAIMOS will go, they will crack down, they will arrest, and then we'll come back to the same thing. Again, we're talking about prosecution, which is another form of deterrence. We are making serious arrests, quite a number of them. What has happened to prosecution? How many of them have been prosecuted? How many of them are online to be prosecuted? The deterrence factor is missing. Whether we, the media, are not following up on them, or we are losing sight of what is happening to the people who have been arrested.
What exactly can district chief executives do? In 2024, we encountered this. This was a regional minister, not even a district chief executive. I think somewhere in the western region. He had led a task force of police and even soldiers, and they couldn't match the Galamseyers and their weaponry. Did you hear that story?
So that is where NAIMOS comes in. If you need a stronger force, if you are overwhelmed, that's where you invite them in to support you. But you should not sit down and watch that thing happen. You see, the danger in allowing them to sit down idly by and watch is that many of them are compromised. And I'm saying that on authority. If you want me to give you examples, I can give you. Many of them are compromised. And because they control the security at the local level, when they are compromised, people take advantage and they do what they like. And many of the police officers at the local level, district, municipal, are also compromised.
Right.
So when you have the local security compromised in that manner, then definitely they will even thwart the efforts of NAIMOS. So there must be a consistent, coordinated kind of fight to be able to achieve the result.
A final question to you and Professor Enin. So start with you, Erastus. We're talking about kingpins that when they are dealt with will bring this down. What do you say the arrests and arraignments in the courts of Akonta Mining, Chairman Wuntumi, and the other gentleman will do to the fight?
This should have been done way back. If it had been done, we wouldn't be where we are today. Because in the Galamsey field, when you arrest the kingpins like that, big men who are destroying and polluting rivers, the message trickles down very fast, and people start removing their items even before security apparatus go there. But we have allowed that to fester. Akonta Mining is not the only campaign we're talking about here. There have been others. Talk about heritage imperial mining. In 2018, there is evidence which indicates that they were mining in their Pamprama Forest Reserve illegally. and they destroyed large tracts of the forest, which sparked series of destruction that today we have 50% of that forest reserve gone. What has happened to the directors of Heritage Imperial? They have metamorphosed, gone into other ventures. They are still doing what they do. And we have not taken time to deal with it. What has happened to them? Are we not arrested?
Do you know, as a matter of fact, that there's evidence presented to security and they've done nothing about this?
But there's evidence in my documentary, Destruction for Gold, when they started mining their Pamprama Forest Reserve in 2018. That is captured in my documentary. The task force, Galamstop, that went there to stop them, they are still alive. Mr. Chuman Pofwajikum, who led Galamstop at the time to seize over 35 excavators from that forest, he's still alive. He's not gone anywhere. He has documented what happened over there. Things they seized from that forest as evidence. He has documented them. He has receipts that he handed gold that we seized from that forest to the appropriate quarters, and he was giving receipts, and he has packed them all in a book. I've seen it. So if really the security agencies are looking for evidence to nail this particular infraction, they would have found it. And that is why I keep saying that in the case of Akonta mining, for example, when myself and your very self, at the time we went to the National CID, you remember, we kept demanding answers. They were telling us to prove whether indeed it was Akonta mining who was mining in the Tano Nimre Forest Reserve, when the man himself has not denied. And they refused to go to the ground to gather evidence to support their prosecution. The same thing is happening now. If we do not keep these big people in check and use it to serve as a warning to the others, then we'll have more people, new people coming in and engaging in that infraction.
All right. So thank you. Professor Enin, the arrests of someone who was thought to be untouchable, how much that, what does it do to the fight, so to speak?
Well, once more, it sends a symbolic gesture, or it's a symbolic gesture. Erastus says this fellow ought to have been arrested long ago. I think the AG has told us that the file got missing. Okay, somebody within the interstices of the state stole the file because he had been bottled. Now, nobody has been arrested for hiding that file. Okay, so if it is the same people that we expect to suddenly turn coat and be seen to be supporting the president's fight, then nothing is going to happen in the long term. That leads me to my second point about this generalized conversation.
But before your second point, do you have hope that people who are said to be within this government, who are also part of the kingpins, will be fished out and dealt with?
No. And that ties to you are really very smart, Samson, but it ties into my second point.
Okay, then let's hear it.
This noise about declare a state of emergency and the argument that we haven't exhausted all the avenues. Declaring a state of emergency will not work if it is the same people who must ensure that the state of emergency is implemented. Because they've been in the system, they failed, and suddenly we think by the stroke of the pen from the president, they should become effective, they should become loyal to the state, they should turn their institutions around to be able to deliver the public goods. No, it doesn't work that way.
If it will make no difference and it meant no big deal, why is the president hesitant in declaring state of emergency?
Because it's the same people who have been there the last 10 years, who are still within the state apparatus, who are going to get a state of emergency to work or not to work.
Yeah, that's my point. If it is just a matter of nomenclature and it doesn't mean anything, the president, the government will rather declare it than suffer the backlash it is getting for not declaring it.
No. Because if he declares and nothing happens, I mean, that even worsens the situation. Because a state of emergency is very particular. Okay,
this is not a laughing matter, but we are laughing.
Because we've been joking with this for such a long time. Who within the public sector who has been part of this canker that we are talking about has been punished? The AG tells us, to go back to the Akunta mining thing, that the docket got lost. How? And suddenly the docket reappears. Because I've been questioning the timing of putting people before statutory institutions when governments change. When did we get access to these facts? My final point relates to the talk about guns. When you have your statutory security forces who follow a minister to a mining site and they are outgunned, the symbolism in that is that, look, we can take on the state. Okay, so we've got to ask ourselves, how do we want to deal with this?
Prof, before you leave us, just tell us in 1 minute something you have told us over and again. And last week I had a retired military officer also, telling us about the national security implications of these pictures we are seeing of galamseyers, getting armed all over the country, so armed that it gets to a point, places are declared red zones, and the state security is even not able to access these places because of armed thugs. What's the danger?
Well, the danger is that the state's capacity and willingness to protect itself and to protect the tools that it needs to protect itself are basically non-existent. So, Samson, give me about 2 months. My team and I will be going to the field to do the third baseline survey, looking at the number of guns that are unregistered in Ghana, looking at the state of our magazines and our armories. And then we'll be able to come out with a specific figure, that tells us what type of guns are available, who has what, in which region, and in what district. Already,
should we expect a militia that will terrorize us?
I think it's important that we don't frighten the listeners. So that I will share with you privately.
Thank you very much.
There are 2 studies. There are several studies. One, that one part or one group from Italy, an Italian mafia, brings in enough dirty money to buy gold. So this is free consultancy for the national intelligence and then the financial intelligence. Okay? One Italian mafia group brings in dirty money to buy gold, takes it, sells it wherever, cleans the money, and takes it back to Europe. That's number 1. Number 2, we know, and it's proven beyond doubt, that with the exception of Mali, Ghana is the second country, gold-producing country, in which the leakages are massive. Okay, now, I think Elika might be able to tell us, but the initial calculation shows that about $2 to $2.5 billion worth of small-scale gold oozes out of the system every year. That leads to organized criminal groups having an interest in ensuring that whatever NAIMOS is achieving right now will be resisted. And I can tell you that there's going to be resistance. And that is why I think we need to bring this country forward.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwesi Enin. And last week I also hosted Major retired Ebenezer Kwache Ajiman, security risk and leadership expert, who has done a research in this area and tells us how this has become, transnational, crime, and talking about how within our region, it poses a danger. And they are all willing to speak to you privately about a certain danger, security threat to us in the very near future. It almost looks like you cannot overcome it because you have allowed it to grow to a certain point. But they are not willing to talk about it publicly, like he just did.
I cannot say we won't talk about the thing publicly, because when something hits the fan, everybody here will scatter. So let's just face it. What did we say when we were seeing the pictures? We got to the same point. We have allowed small militias to fester on our soil. Very soon they'll coordinate. Since we are also coordinating NAIMOS, they'll also coordinate militially, and then they will start dealing with us as a country. Now you have gold running not just in the south, it's going all the way to the north. Even areas that Boku are beginning to have, there are suggestions that there are certain kinds of not necessarily gold, but mineral finds there. You don't know what we are dealing with. The security implication of this, the foolishness of politicians. You are losing your political power by trying to even entertain this thing that you think is funding you. All the politicians don't find political will to cure this problem because this problem has owned them, and they don't realize that very soon they will even be incognito. No, see, so please let's get real about it.
Measured in your accusation.
Bobo, I'm not being measured about reality and facts. I'm tired of TV compliance. We are dealing with the lives of our children. We are dealing with the future of this nation. Our statehood is at risk. If as a country we've not been able to build nationhood, and we're actually even struggling to now maintain our statehood, what sense is that? You were seeing it to yourself, you were saying it's damn serious. So what is the measurement?
No, I know. But
what is the measurement?
No, I'm saying the measurement of your accusation that every politician is being funded by Galamsey.
Please, Bobo.
Because that's not true.
I've said every politician. All the politicians. All the parties are being funded. Bobo, you know it.
Oh,
Bobo,
no, I don't.
Let's not lie. You don't need to be funded. You know that all the political parties are funded by Galamseyers as well. Anyway. You and I know. We all sitting here. We know people who are suspected Galamsey activists or what the operators. Why are we sitting on Council of State and other places? Why are we pretending as if we don't know what we are saying? The pretense in this country, we should stop. You are seeing this is a militia, Bobo. It's a militia. And it's a militia. So it's not time for us to start sugarcoating words. The risk is real. Our food is at risk. We are eating poison. People there, look at the food they are eating. Are we not human beings? The water is at risk. Livelihood, sustainable livelihood in our vegetation, the forest is at risk. Can you imagine the nonsense? We go and clear and destroy the forest to mine. Look at the trees there. You have blackwood. Sometimes we don't even realize that possibly we are even destroying $2 million. That's because we are looking for some $500,000. We don't know this. Because these are protected reserves. The quality of wood there, nobody does evaluation. All they just see is that equipment. It goes there, the excavate. Nobody is really valuing. The state, Ghana today, cannot even tell us the cost of this whole problem to us in the long term and in the short term. What we have here is a major crisis. And I'm tired of this NAIMOS thing. We are part of it. We support NAIMOS. This thing will not go anywhere if we don't put proper accountability measures across the chain. Mr. President, your power, you can direct things without even moving an inch by holding people just accountable. And we too have to hold you accountable. That's what we said the last time. We don't want to hear whether it is state of emergency or what. Mr. President has his power. He can decide how he wants to use it. The only thing we want to see a safer country. So what's that benchmark in there? So I want to see studies like Prof. Edin and the Major, funded by the state, so that we have recurring reports. We should have water quality reports on a monthly basis to see if our rivers, what kind of metals are in there. Are they healthy for our consumption? Ghana Water, your stability reports should be published every day. Everybody should see what is coming in and what is also going out. When you open the tap, what do you see? We should know what went into that station. Every station in this country should be there. You also have the forest. One last one. You have the forestry report. He should be giving us a monthly report on the state of our forest. That will be our monitoring of His Excellency the President. If everybody can see that the water is not getting better, you can't come and be telling me, showing me rates, 1 rate, 2 rates, and use it to try and mask us. We are not interested in the rates. We are only interested in the ability of the rates to give us the results we want. Good water, better food, our forest reserve protected, and our security infrastructure intact. This is what we want. So the president should trickle it down. Hold these people accountable. DCs, MCs, regional ministers. Sack them.
Yeah. Just a quick one before.
And in any case, where are the kingpins?
Okay, quickly.
Just a quick one. I must commend the sector minister for what he's doing.
Fantastic.
It is Honorable Emmanuel Malkoff.
Why is there Jesus in this matter?
Friday, yes, today's Saturday. Friday, for instance, he's now made it clear that every week there will be regular updates from his ministry in that regard. He's
published the information,
even the
data.
No, it's been done. And then so at Forestry Commission also, same is going to be done to make sure that there's a regular update for the Ghanaian to know what the state of this is, what is going on. And
we want to know the water situation every day at Ghana Water. We want to see the forest report every month. Let's just clear, not they will give me general updates funny for no. We should see matrices that we can all monitor as a country.
I think this is
okay.
Prof,
you've been watching this for a long time.
He's the man who has the last thing.
You have to
let's start. You will make the peace. Peacemaker coming. Yes, Prof.
But he knows his own piece is
Prof, and like I said, if you have had the benefit of reading Esankume's, piece, he deals with the thing excellently about how we are not enforcing our laws, however good they are, and everything else. We allowed for a whole period since we began to license small-scale miners and all. And we're expected that even if any concession is given, it needed to go to Parliament for ratification. We sat down for decades without ratifying one, so that there will be parliamentary oversight on these licenses. We issued them in the hundreds, and there was no oversight. Occupy Ghana had to come and complain. So in 2024, just around when, 2023, 2024-ish, when we are talking elections, then midnight, Parliament goes to ratify en masse all the leases that have not been ratified. So he says, part of the problem, we have created a legacy. We didn't investigate some of these people well. So it is actually not about lack of, brains or lack of resources. It is political will. You agree?
Yes. And if you look at, I recall in the lead up to the 2024 election, when Galamsey became an issue again, and even post the election, when I sometimes, follow these conversations, I say to people I engage privately on this matter, go back and take a look at the manifestos of our two main political parties. If you combine those two manifestos, you don't even see the word Galamsey being used more than 6 times across the two manifestos. My reading of it was, it appears as though, without saying it directly, there was this conscious attempt not to create the impression that we are going to take this really strong anti-Galamsey stand, even though there was this, it's a bad thing, etc., right? That's part of the way I see this political will thing manifesting. It's an election year. Yes, we'll put in good ideas on how we can fight this menace, but you walk away with this impression that, hey, let's not create this impression that when we come in, we're going to bulldoze everybody out of the way, but rather we use beautiful narratives like, greater regulatory oversight and administrative support, and not that those things are bad ideas, but how you even communicate what you want to do policy-wise around these things may give either the impression to those engaged in it some level of comfort that says, yeah, maybe I'm safe, or no, I am not safe. If we are looking at all of these pictures, the stories that Erasmus is sharing, then you see even the entanglement of our own state institutions, the very institutions that we are looking at fighting this thing, also being sort of compromised in certain places. How do you master that political will eventually to do this.
Soldiers went to Vanguard. Soldiers went to do Vanguard. They were now even holding and helping the Galamseyers.
I was on a show.
We saw it on TV.
I was on a show 2 years ago where one of the persons involved in these security operations said, even at some point, some of them even became compromised and started offering protection to the very people. So my last point is, what political will? Is it that at some point we have to make it an issue where there are no winners and losers, right? That our two political parties are able to get to a place of political consensus and say, look, we have traded political jabs over this. We've made each other politically vulnerable to Galamsey. Can we get to a point where I'm not trying to score points or I'm not trying to make you vulnerable? Can we get to a place where we both agree that, look, let's master the will, however we are entangled or not entangled?
Is it possible to get to that place when you have people in government now, like Felix Kwache Ofosu, sometime in 2020, was it 2023? Yeah, he wrote Galamsey government. You remember those times were the times that you guys just hated us for doing Galamsey almost on a daily basis. Is it possible to get to the point he's saying, when you, the politicians, do it this way?
We really don't have a choice. We need to get there. Well, I was surprised that the president's engagement that he had with the CSOs last time did not even include political parties. Because, look, Samson, I mean, when I say to my friends in the NDC that I really wish them well, they don't believe me.
I believe.
But one thing that I can assure you that when I say I wish you well, I really mean it, is the fight against Galamsey. Because look, we all come from out of Accra. We drive to our hometowns. We see the rivers. We see them. And it's sad how we have played politics with Galamsey to the point where it's gotten to a level that, and it's politics. Because look, when President Akufo-Addo said that he is prepared to put his presidency on the line, he meant it. He meant well. What did you do when you were in opposition at the time? He banned small-scale mining for 2 years. We played politics for this. And look, let's be sincere with ourselves. It has to stop.
Thank you.
It has to stop. I mean, I won't play politics with Galamsey because we see the destruction on a day-by-day basis. We live it. Now, they say it's entered our food. We all go to the market. They don't mark the cassava and plantain. This one is coming from a safe haven. So, please, look, Mr. President,
okay.
You can take it from me that the MPP as a party, and we commend the work that NAIMOS is doing. Today, we are being told that it's not a one-week fight like we were told when you guys were in opposition looking for power, and that it's short, medium, long term. Do whatever it takes. You have the power. We can only talk. Like we were told by Felix Kwache Ofosu and Aaron Idrusu a couple of years ago. We can only criticize. You have the power of state. We won't play politics with it like you did. Get this thing done. And the credit will come to you.
Okay, let me take a break here. But you guys, you have a lot to do. The Ghana coalition against Galamsey. Do you hear that now? What's the name? Excavators are being brought in dismantled parts. It's a story I heard. I was shocked. We'll be right back.